Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the Eternal Tournament Series Season 3, Week 3 tournament. We are about to jump into the grand finals here between Moto and Kirby, who are both on Armory. Two of our very few Armory players in this tournament, and they have made it all the way through the gauntlet of Swiss rounds and this top 8 bracket to face each other here in the finals to determine who is the top armorer.
Yeah, and I was actually pretty surprised to see when deck lists first got posted how few Armory decks there were. I was personally working the assumption that it was the best or second best deck in the format. I've had an incredible amount of success with it. Most of the people I know have had an incredible amount of success with it. It's just like a very powerful deck, and Quarry has gone a long way to fixing some consistency issues it might have had.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see those quarries coming in handy over here for Kirby. He's got 2 floating around. He's going to have to go ahead and use that Seek Power in a second, though, to go search up Shadow or Justice. Kind of a hard decision to make there. Justice turns on the Harsh Rule and the Auric Rune Hammer, but Shadow gets in the quarry.
I think that's pretty loose. The quarry, because the quarries can find the second Justice very likely. Your deck is base, Fire Justice, Shadow is the splash. So it's just very likely that Kirby just never sees another Shadow Source. Whereas the quarries can almost certainly find a second Justice.
Yeah, very true. And I actually was about to point out there, I'm not sure on the sequencing there. It ends up not particularly mattering since this is going to get cleaned up anyway. But generally, I would assume you would inspire first in a turn. If you're going to do that, you should always draw first to see what you pick up. Never know if it may adjust your game plan. He picked up a 3-2 Artisan, so you're probably only playing the 2-1 anyway, but...
Yeah, and the Armory Mirror is very interesting in the fact that, like, you don't want to be the first person to play a weapon on an empty board because the weapon could just get cracked back on by another weapon, and then you just give your opponent initiative and lose a card in the process. So it's a little like dance to try and get initiative with, like, the little creatures like Throne Warden or Mercado Artisan, and then follow up with weapons. So Komodo puts himself in a very good spot here with a Throne Warden, and then can follow up with a weapon that actually is armor.
Yeah, and we see a little bit of a dance going on between the two players. I do want to note, I think I misspoke a few moments ago about Kirby's ordering. I retract my statement. I'm pretty sure playing Rakano Artisan before you Inspire is correct for the extra
big weapon.
+1. Yeah, so that was my mistake. Kirby very clearly showing that he knows how to play the Armory deck much better than I do. We do see him pick up a 5/4 Sword of Icaria, so he will be able to at least clear out the Throne Warden and chip off some of this armor that would be problematic from Komodo.
Yeah, now Komodo is like, could play the Daishido, or like, you really want to save the Stone Scarmal because the Stone Scarmal is the only card in the matchup that allows you to come back from a board where they have a creature and a weapon. So that's not what you want to extend out here. It's either the Daishido or the Rune Hammer, and you frankly don't have to play either. You could wait, and then like maybe they play a weapon, and you could hit it with them all. But we do see the Daishido here. I like that. It's fine. Playing nothing there, frankly, would have also been defensible.
Yeah, I think I like getting the Daishido down here to try and put some pressure on, but yeah, Kirby's definitely going to crack him back, and we're going to see Auric Rune Hammer, I'm assuming, out of Komodo probably to follow that up. And this is just going to be a trading of blows back and forth for both players.
Yeah, this is why the creatures are so important, because without them, it kind of just is a binary equation of like who has more weapons and like who can crack back more.
Yeah, and interesting, we see Komodo's Quarry there hits 2 Sword of Icaria, so not really given much of a choice there, but Sword of Icaria is going to be just fine in that situation. And now we're going to see if Kirby is going to put on the Rune Hammer to go back, and this is exactly what I was saying, just a trading of blows. We're just going to sling weapon against weapon here over and over, and it's really going to come down to who runs out of weapons first, which looks like it's going to be Kirby, unfortunately, for him. Komodo is looking pretty set over here with another Rune Hammer and a Maul to follow up.
Yeah, this is one of generally the Armory Mirror is a very like back and forth compelling matchup that like really takes a lot of like measured play, but when the game plays out like this, is kind of just a binary equation of who has more weapons. Kirby could rise for an Icaria or a Throne or a sort of the Sky King to kind of break up that paradigm. But even the Sword of the Sky King is probably the best bet, but still doesn't exactly get him there.
Yeah, I think Sword of the Sky King was definitely an attractive pull. I also do like the Stone Scar Maul. I don't think you can take Icaria in that situation, unfortunately, because you just have to assume that your opponent can have an Auric Rune Hammer that'll just clean it up too perfectly. We do see the Stone Scar Maul coming down, and this is going to push a lot of damage back on Komodo, but we see Komodo has his own Ikaria to follow up and hit here. Although this is...
No, Ikaria is the better play here because whatever you do is going to kill the weapon, but Ikaria gets Warcry 5 and also like trades with whatever weapon they have unless it's a 5 damage Rune Hammer. So getting the Warcry 5 is worth it. Whatever you're going to play there kills their weapon.
Yeah, this is true. Since X-Kirby actually didn't have a weapon, though, it wasn't necessarily a terrible idea to establish the weapon, but the Ikaria did force a double trade, and already all of the damage has been done here. And Komodo, trying to figure out, really doesn't want to get the Stone Scar Maul down right now, but it does...
it's a 2-turn clock.
Yeah, exactly. It's a 2-turn clock here, which is what he does want. He would like to get this game over with as quickly as possible. And we're going to see Rakano Artisans picked up and some very cheap Sword of Ikarias, which will be able to be Armor Smith, I believe. And that will bust this sword up. And the Auric Runehammer is going to have a target to hit because this Armor Smith will come down here.
Yeah, the 2 damage Sword of Ikaria, like Quarry just showing its strength again. I can't imagine not playing the Armor Smith here. You just let yourself get cracked back by a weapon. The spot you want to get to in the Armory Mirror is creature in play, weapon in play, because it's very, very challenging for the Armory to like beat that board.
Yeah, and we just saw the Stone Scar Maul come down. Interestingly enough, if he could play this Sigil undepleted, Komodo actually could crack back here, but even then it wouldn't actually take care of the weapon. The 5/6 Sword of Ikaria has become just too much for him to deal with, and I think this is going to lead to a game win for X-Kirby. Yeah, going to go ahead and drop the Daisho.
Oh yeah, Daisho is lethal. Komodo never saw the Warcry 5 thing, which is usually the case with Ikaria. Someone who has Warcried many in Ikaria, just generally don't see it. It's standard variants.
Yeah, there is a lot of your deck is quite threat light in comparison to a lot of decks, so there just aren't nearly as many targets for the Warcry 5, and there's not as much of a likelihood to draw them. But when you draw it, man, is it sweet.
Yeah, Warcry 5 going on pretty much any weapon is going to put you very far hard, if not just outright win the game. And we'll see the players move here into game 2. We do not sideboard yet. For anyone new to the series, it's best of 5. First 2 games, no sideboard. The rest have a sideboard.
Yep. And we're going to go ahead and see Komodo lead off with an early Justice Sigil into Seek Power to go ahead and fix his Rakano base. He'll still be looking for Shadow in the coming turns, but at least he can play his main threats.
And one of the biggest payoffs of Armory is you just have access to the 2 best cantrips in the game in Inspire and Quarry. Quarry is just so good at finding what you need, and then there's also just the ancillary benefit of sometimes making things cost less. And Inspire, the +1/+1 to a weapon or creature from Inspire matters like so much more in this deck than other decks because the +1/+1 on a weapon actually translates into artificial card advantage, allowing weapon to swing multiple times. Whereas making like a 2/2, a 3/3, or whatever doesn't generally translate to actual card advantage.
Yeah, and we're seeing a couple of interesting turns here. Ooh, Seed of Glory. I guess he needed this. No, I'm going to disagree slightly with Komodo there. I think you should have quarried the Seek Power and then pulled an extra Sigil out of your deck since you could have fixed your Fire Influence that way. I guess he is trying to play around Ikaria needing triples, so that is a little fair, but by the time you even find Ikaria, you'll probably be pretty close.
Yeah. And we see the Naked Sword of Ikaria being cracked back by the other Naked Sword of Ikaria, and thus we enter the stage of the game where it's who has the weapon, although Throne Warden, big enough to block the weapon, does break serve on this.
Yeah, it very much does. Being a 6/6 and with the Aegis not susceptible to Harsh Rule, that actually might throw the slant hard enough in X-Kirby's favor. He's going to silence it for now so that he can Harsh Rule it later, which means he probably will just go ahead and have to sack the Valkyrie Enforcer here. It's going to die next turn anyway, but this gives X-Kirby a bit of breathing room.
Yeah, certainly. Like we talked about in previous matchups, Armory's weakness is creatures that are too big for their weapons, and Throne Warden certainly is that in this case. Although, because the Aegis is gone now, Harsh Rule is actually going to be able to get value here, cleaning things up, and then maybe this Daishido can come in afterwards and do some work.
Okay, so we're going to go back to the do you quarry and use your draw cards before you Rakano Artisan. I'm actually going to say that was a mistake on xKirby's part right there to Rakana Artisan in that case, because you really wanted to draw a Sword of Ikaria as xKirby off your quarry, since you would have reduced the cost just far enough for you to actually play it, and then you would have been able to strip their sword.
Yeah, certainly. There's a lot of little sequencing things with all of these cantrips and stuff. A lot of little stuff that you don't think matters, but actually could decide the game one way or the other. We see the Daishido trade for the Daishido here.
Yeah, Daisho trade for the Daisho, which is going to get traded back for the Auric Runehammer, which then, we're going to see if he picks up anything sweet, just a Harsh Rule or a Seat. It's actually kind of a tough choice.
You probably just take the Harsh Rule, because the only 7-drop in your deck is Ikaria, and you need Fire Influence for that. That land doesn't provide Fire Influence, so just get the Harsh Rule. It's bad, but the Seat doesn't do anything.
Yeah, the seed doesn't particularly do a lot. The only argument to taking the seed is needing later power for Smuggler Stash plays, but I'm not sure how far this game is going to go at this point. It really depends on what the series of draws looks like, because both players look like they're in a very strong position. xKirby actually going to have a problem next turn with a lack of anything to do. This sort of Ikaria is going to be assuredly protected because Rise. He needed to hit a power there, probably. His own Sword of Ikaria isn't bad, but it won't clear it since it's not big enough. So he was really looking for a power there so he could go rise to the challenge into a bigger Sword of Ikaria.
Yeah, I think that maybe, because none of his creatures are big enough, so I think you just have to take, Stone Scar Maul here. Just have to take another big weapon. Stone Scar Maul also insulates you from another creature, although Throne Warden will give enough armor on the back end to allow the sword to survive. So I think Kirby's in actually a pretty bad spot. The good card in the matchup that usually lets you come back from behind in Stone Scar Maul actually isn't good enough here.
Yeah, it unfortunately, like you said, normally would clear this away, and it actually would have removed all the armor if not for that bonus 4 armor that Komodo gets from playing it. So yeah, going to be a little bit unfortunate for Kirby. He's kind of in an awkward position. Looks like he's going to choose to go ahead and put the Sword of Ikaria in here and just hope Komodo doesn't have any unit to follow up with, and he can crack for 9 with the Stone Scar Maul next turn.
Yeah, this is really the only play available to Kirby, although we do see Komodo draw the torch off the top, which will force lethal and bring us to our sideboarded games.
Yes, absolutely. We're going into sideboard games now. And you have played at least a decent bit of Armory. So you should be able to tell me what cards are going to be in these sideboards in general.
So the most important card in the matchup is Ruin. The reason for that is, like we talked about earlier, the board you want to get to is creature to block for your weapon and a weapon. And Ruin allows you to play a weapon naked on an empty board, leave up 1, prevent your weapon from being cracked back on, then untap, play a creature, and then snowball your lead. So I would imagine players bringing their Ruins. xKirby has 4. I think Komodo only has 2.
Yeah,
Komodo only has 2 Ruins in sideboard.
Kirby does have 4 though, yeah. So that'll favor him a little bit. Smuggler Stash, I have to assume we're going to see some of those come in.
It's interesting because the matchup is these are kind of control decks, but the mirror is actually very tempo oriented. There aren't a lot of things that allow you to come back from behind on a board that has a Throne Warden and a big weapon. So things like Zendale's Gift and Smuggler Stash are still good. They're fine, but there's a lot of ways the game can play out where those don't become involved.
Yeah, and we kind of see that split. It looks like Komodo has, I'm not sure if he has Azendals in his side or if that's in his main. But yeah, it looks like he had an Azendals in the side and he brought that in. So I'm going to also assume that xKirby brought in a couple Azendal's Gift. But yeah, for the most part, these players are just going to be pulling in Stashes, Ruins, maybe some Azendal's Gift, but not too much. This is basically going to come down to a tempo fight, like we've been saying.
It's just about cultivating that board where you get ahead and then put your opponent on Stone Scar Maul or Bust. And even then, the Stone Scar Maul usually brings things back to neutral.
Yeah, and we see interesting starting hands out of both players. xKirby went ahead and I think he mulliganed his 2-power hand into this also 2-power or 3-power hand, but not or 2-power hand. Yeah, not super exciting though. A lot of drawing, not a lot of threats towards the end. Komodo, on the other hand, got everything he's looking for.
His hand is almost perfect.
Yeah, this is basically exactly what I would imagine that you would want as an Armory player out of the gate, and he even picks up a Ruin. Yeah.
This is very good for Komodo.
Yeah, Kirby's gonna have to have some sick draws here, and hitting all this power is not super sick.
One thing I'm interested about with Kirby's list is they kept in the Harsh Roll post board, which is probably far and away the worst card in the matchup. It's the only targets are this 2/1 here and Aegis creatures. It's just so rare you're ever going to see a board that's profitable to Harsh Roll.
Yeah, and at Vanquish as well. Like, it's so hard to make Vanquish actually usable until you hit those upper power echelons, where you can actually do things like Vanquish the Icaria, then to Harsh Rule it, or vice versa.
Yeah, and Komodo doesn't have another weapon to kind of snowball his advantage, but he is insulated from opposing weapons by both Torch and Ruin, and is going to be able to extend out this Throne Warden on the following turn. Although Kirby is going to have Throne Warden initiative. Yeah,
he does have the initiative with the Throne Warden, gets his own down, though they will just run into each other, so that's at least that's a positive for Komodo. He just wants to go ahead and lock this down and try and start building towards his weapons and stuff. And yeah, Kirby's just like a lot of removal in hand, and
it's not going to be awful in this spot. Kind of getting rewarded for maybe suboptimal sideboarding, but he will get tempo here. He has to either Komodo has to either chump block with the 200, lose all 4 armor. Armor is actually a pretty valuable resource in this mirror, so like there's a strong argument to chump block there. He elects not to do so. You see, if he did, this sword would be insanely large.
Yeah, this would be a crazy big sword, but as is, since it does come out as a 6/5 and not a 5/4, he doesn't really get punished at all for it, and in fact gets to keep the unit, which is pretty relevant since we've talked about that a bunch in the matchup. Without having either Starsteel Die Show or the Stone Scar Maul, it's going to be very hard for him to push past this unit and weapon.
And he is insulated from opposing weapons with both the Torch and the Ruin. The Torch can get this guy out the way. Can start snowballing Warcry, so subsequent weapons are large. There's another sword. So Komodo is pretty far ahead in this game. There are things that Kirby can have, like Stone Scar Maul, Karia, the Daishido, bring him back, but he needs one of those things.
Yeah, he would love to see a buffed up Daisho here, because I think he did throw, or no, the Inspire must have hit the Armor Smith, unfortunately. He would have loved to have seen like a 5/5 Daisho here.
Now Komodo draws a Runehammer off the top. He just is so heavily insulated from like anything Kirby can do. I think not sure what Kirby can draw here to get himself out of this.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think there's anything anymore that Kirby can actually draw. We'll probably see an Azendil's Gift come down here. So
for the Rubbins,
yeah, for the Rubbins, because there's really nothing that X Kirby wasn't immediately going to play anyway. Maybe some, but it really wouldn't have mattered. We see the 5/4 sword and the 6/3 and even the 7/4 Runehammer. So take your pick. Komodo's going
still
to drop
had all these.
Yeah, exactly. He got so far ahead, and it kind of went to what I said, where X Kirby's early game was just way too two vanquishes, a harsh rule, some seek powers, and some power. Like even when he picked up the Throne Warden, it just really wasn't enough. He didn't have the same flair that the Armory deck's looking for, where he just has massive weapon after massive weapon coming down. I'll hit you with this 6/5 Sword of Akar, I'll hit you with this 5/4 one, I'll hit you with this 6/3 Orc Runehammer. Here's the 7/4 one to back it up. Like, we can just do this all day.
Yeah,
that's how Komodo was feeling.
And you do see the scrap tank in this opening hand for X Kirby. I'm interested to see them not go back to board, because the Vanquish and the Harsh Rule were like probably why he lost that game. He essentially mulled 3 times. The Vanquish should end up getting some kind of value, but the Harsh Rule was just dead the whole game, ended up trading with an Artisan. I'm surprised to see those remain in the deck.
Yeah. It is very, it is an interesting thought. Like, I'm not entirely sure why some of those cards did make the cut back into the deck, but clearly I think the players have their plans. And
this is an interesting decision for Komodo on the quarry between the stash and the sigil. I think you don't need 2 stashes in this game. I think you need to hit power to get to all that stuff. I would take the Justice Sigil personally, but there's an argument for taking the stash.
There's definitely a greedy argument taking the stash, but I think that would be wrong in most cases. You really need to make sure that you're going to hit your power here, because falling behind in the Armory matchup, as we've seen, is pretty devastating.
And then we have the same Corey with the same choice and the same decision.
Yep, exactly. Both players know where they stand. We're seeing a very good game out of both of these people. And did Komodo make a misplay? He might have misplayed there. I think he was mousing towards the Sword of Ikaria like he wanted to play it, but I think he realizes now he was 1 power short of that. So, and two power Sword of Ikaria for aReNGee, so that'll help. Sometimes those undercosted weapons really throw off your opponent's math for what kind of cards they really need to play around. It's very unlikely we'll see Komodo playing around 2-cost Sword of Ikaria.
Yeah, like Armory's like getting to multiple spell turns, so you can have like the creature weapon board earlier for Armory is something that usually happens a lot slower, but having the weapons get discounted lets you get there quicker. And then we see Komodo run this Valkyrie into a potential Runehammer, and then the Runehammer does manifest. It's going to get hit back with this Sword of Ikaria, and then we'll probably see another Sword of Ikaria back. And now we've entered this stage of the game, although this Armor Smith is actually really good at preserving some level of tempo. If he decides to defend the Sword of Ikaria, he decides it's not the weapon he wants to protect, he can do something moving forward.
Yeah, it looks like he would rather protect the Auric Runehammer. How much armor do you need to gain for Armor Smith to be free? 2.
You need to have 2 armor in play. So you cannot do it off of a Runehammer baseline. I think you still Runehammer this turn, though, just to get the Throne Warden out of here. You can do that as Scrap Tank, I think, are the 2 reasonable options. And we see them Kirby elect for the Runehammer.
Yeah, very true. Something to note, Scrap Tank might actually come in handy in this matchup since it does provide a lot of bodies, but Komodo is going to start to take over a little bit here with this 4-8 dice show and kind of put the pressure on Kirby to find some way to answer him. And that Sword of Ikaria isn't bad, but that's not exactly what you were looking for here. I have to imagine we'll see some sort of Rise Sword Armor Smith. But
I think this turn has to be Scrap Tank, and it's like very awkward, but it prevents you from like dying to the Daishio. It can't hit face. You still have a Grenadin left over. Then next turn, after the Daishio has taken all this damage, maybe the Sword of Ikaria can bring it down. You can Rise on that turn as well because you have enough mana because the Armor Smith is free. So I think that the Scrap Tank was the play that turn.
Yeah, I think you're right in hindsight. Yeah, I definitely think you need to reduce this Daishio. Since it was a 4-8, it was much more awkward, but now it's at a 4-4, and he can actually have an answer to this with the Sword of Ikaria if he wants to. But yeah, now he's going to go for the play I suggested last turn where he goes Rise, Sword, Armor Smith. And yeah, that play looks a lot better this turn. Correct.
Also, we saw Kirby play a little bit loose there. They didn't Armor Smith before the attack, so Komodo could have had Torch and kind of blown that play out, but it doesn't get punished for it. It elects to hold on to the Armor Smith for, I guess, another weapon. He's just not content with these Sword of Ikarias. He doesn't want to protect him. Doesn't need him.
Yeah, and I kind of get the position it seems that he's coming from. Like, it seems like these weapons are kind of just getting pushed over regardless, so there's no reason to commit your extra armor to it. Go ahead and wait to fish up something that's a little more important, but not anything particular now, though we are going to see, whoa, that was a very interesting. And maybe I'm wrong, but I would have definitely dropped the Ikaria down.
Well, the Ikaria you don't want to drop because you're supposed to stashed. I think, do they know about the 5-power Runehammer, or is the other one? Because you generally want to have the Ikaria kill a weapon when it comes down, so at least trades for 2 weapons, which is going to get to do here.
Yeah, that's fair. This does get the 2 weapon trade. And answer to your question, no, the Runehammer was not revealed, so this does actually seem to work out better the way he did it, though. Now he is going to run it into the Runehammer either way, since Komodo had it in his back pocket the whole time, just trying to throw his opponent off, supposedly. And he ends up knocking that down, and now Komodo is just poised to take not only this game, but I do believe the whole series.
And now we see, like, Kirby's just left with this Armor Smith that doesn't really do anything, and we're waiting for another weapon, I guess, but now the Armor Smith that was actually like pretty good earlier kind of does like not a lot. I guess it might trade with this Runehammer, but the Throne Ward is going to prevent that.
Yep, and we see the damage getting pushed. And yeah, unfortunately for aReNGee, I'm pretty sure that this going down, and yeah, he's counted up. That's 13 on board, in fact. So Kirby is just going to be dead.
And again, the long tradition of people Warcry 5ing with Icaria and never seeing what it hit continues.
Yeah, never found that big weapon he really needed to find. Would have been great if he had found like his own Sword of the Sky King.
I like it. Committing honorable Sudoku to Torch.
Yeah, honorable Sudoku for his failures here. But Kirby, no. Kirby played excellently today. Both these players did. Like, they're definitely showed their proficiency with their armory decks today, and both of them made it all the way to the finals, which is super impressive, to an armory mirror in the finals. I'm not sure how many more times I'll get to say that, but I hope it isn't the only time. So big congratulations to both of the players, Kirby and Komodo. Both of you are now qualified for the Season 3 Invitational, which will be on April 1st and April 2nd. Big props to Komodo for taking the whole tournament down. He got himself some bragging rights and some extra series points too. So that'll help contribute to not only the Invitational that he's now qualified for, but the series points for the mid-season major and the World Championships. So congratulations to both of them. Big thank you to all of our players and viewers today. We really do appreciate you guys not only coming out and playing the tournament, but we also appreciate all of our viewers at home for, sticking around and checking it out. We really do love to put on this production, so we appreciate all the support that we receive from you guys on a weekly basis. We're going to go ahead and do a quick rundown of some shout-outs. Let me pull up my list. Let's go through. So shout out to Rick Kenner, obviously, for organizing the whole tournament. Shout out to all of our casters that we normally have. So in this case, it's going to be me and the wonderful TrueDawn. So thank you very much for being here with us, TrueDawn. And you are going to be one of the regular casters on the aReNGee Eternal team. So everybody is going to be hearing from you a lot more.
Yeah, and this is super fun. I really enjoyed doing this today. I hope everyone watching and enjoyed my casting. Hopefully I did a good job, and I look forward to doing this in the future. It was very fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being a part of the team and joining us as another regular caster. So that's going to be great. We're going to have TrueDawn on pretty regularly. We'll get you guys more information about that in the coming weeks about our casters. We're trying to work on some renovations to the casting process. But yeah, thank you to TrueDawn for being here with me. Big thank you to Miller Tool for making the whole show happen, since he is our producer. Obviously, without him here, you wouldn't be seeing or hearing any of this. Thank you for the VOD contributions from aReNGee and Loco Pojo. Always appreciated. Thank you for the graphics contributions from Kirby, who we just saw in the finals there playing his Armory deck. Dragonfly, Sir Rhino, and Zaraya. Big shout out to all of you guys, and we really do appreciate the graphics. Thank you for the tie break script for Mingar. I know he worked on that with Miller Tool, so we also appreciate that. Thank you for aReNGee for starting this whole thing and putting on this whole production, essentially. You guys go ahead and check out www.arengeternal.com. That is www.eternal.com. Check that out for all your news and articles. We got stock lists. We got a bunch of stuff, guys. Tournament news is also there as well. So feel free to check that out. We got great content on the website. If you enjoyed the show, please feel free to kick us a little bit of your dosh, a little bit of your Skrilla. Go ahead and kick that to www.patreon.com/aReNGee Eternal. That is www.patreon.com/aReNGee Eternal. If you guys enjoy the show, feel free to let us know with your hard-earned cash. We do appreciate it so very much, since, as it has been stated multiple times, we don't get paid for really doing any of this. Like, we don't use advertisements or anything like that.
For the love of the game.
Yeah, exactly. We're doing this here because we want to be here more than anything. And so any support you guys provide us is awesome. It goes towards just trying to increase the production quality of this and working on some future goals, which hopefully we will be able to bring you all. Also, if you enjoyed the show, but you don't have any money to contribute to us at this time, not a problem. We would appreciate your support just by following us on Twitch. And that way, you can check out the show when it is on Saturdays. Also, for everyone, just a quick reminder, we do have the streaming network, so I'm just going to do a quick rundown of that. It's under here, but Sunday, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m., Lights Out Ace. Check him out tomorrow. Monday, 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. Check out Miller Tool, our production guy. He's really great. Wednesday, we got a break on Tuesday. Wednesday, we got 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Lights Out Ace, bringing it back again. So he's doing 2 streams a week. On Thursday, you've got myself from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m., hanging out with you guys and playing some ranked and draft. We have a break on Friday, and then obviously Saturday at noon, every noon, we are here every Saturday, every noon, whatever it is. We will be here, and we'll be running the Eternal Tournament series, all of our weeklies, and then our invitationals. So, yeah, thank you everybody so much. And for the last and final time, since this is the correct time to say it, that's all for us, folks. So y'all have a wonderful night, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, everyone, for showing up. It was a good time. See you again next week.
Yeah, we will see y'all next week. So have a wonderful night.